Hello, public opinion aficionados, and welcome to Rasmussen Reports, the pollster you can set your clock to because once again, for a fifth week in a row, we show that Donald Trump is winning the national popular vote by 2 points. And listen, folks, the race has not really changed. The polling is not really any different, but exactly what we predicted is playing out right now on the national stage as people finally come to realize desperately that Kamala Harris is actually losing right now. And it's a slow motion train wreck as the few remaining mainstream media outlets with a shred of credibility prepare their viewers for what appears to be, barring like an act of God, an inevitable Harris loss. I call it the loser narrative, the point at which the uniform Democrat machine press is no longer able to convince the world that this is a vibe election driven by the next hot consumer product candidate. And if this is what the rest of October looks like, it is going to be a pretty ugly month for some people. But let's take a quick look at our new crosstabs first. And here they are, pretty similar to last week, except, a slightly bigger sample size because we just recently upped the number of respondents we're getting each night. And, we have Trump at 48 and Harris at 46 instead of 49 and 47, but that's been oscillating back and forth. The gender numbers have been incredibly stable. I think this is almost exactly what we got last week. Trump winning men by almost 10 points. Harris narrowly edging out Trump among women, tied among 18 to 39-year-olds, middle-aged voters going to Trump, tied among 65 and older voters. Makes sense. Trump winning with white voters by 6 points, taking home 28% of the black vote and winning Hispanic voters by 10. Zero crossover advantage. Actually, I guess 1 point, insignificant. And Trump still winning by 9 points among independent voters. Pretty fascinating. But again, like I've said, week after week, 5 weeks in a row, these numbers have been almost identical because the polling isn't changing. Trump didn't just, come out of left field and all of a sudden convince these people to vote for him. He's been campaigning for this election for like 8 years now, to be honest with you. I never thought she had much of a chance to claw away Donald Trump supporters. It seems to me, just personally, if you can get over that hump and support Donald Trump, it's probably a little bit of a red pill. Actually, people have been using that phrase for almost a decade now. Once you take the red pill, are you really going to be swayed by the latest hot vibe candidate? I don't think so. Let's take a quick look. Here is the latest overnight chart. And I think we're going to be changing this up tomorrow. I think we might, instead of individual nightly and then 5-period moving average, I think we've been increasing the nightly sample to almost 500. So I think what we're going to put out is also a daily rolling 4-day crosstab and stop with the weekly Thursday releases. But Trump had a strong night last night, making up for the Harris +6 2 nights ago. Trump was up 4 last night, and it still looks like about a 1-point race here in the 5-period moving average. But, a moving average isn't the same as aggregating all of this data into one pot and then reweighting it. So that's why we have Trump +2. But let's go to Real Clear Politics, and it is still Harris +2, but I think this is the week of, as Scott Adams puts it, the great pollster true up, where anybody who wants to be accurate needs to start shifting all of their propaganda polls back to the right. We're already starting to see it with Reuters Ipsos. I think they got all the way up to Harris +6, but they're Harris +2 now. Yahoo News has the race tie. Quinnipiac has the race tie. CNN has Harris +1. Emerson's got Harris +1 too. I think based on their state polling, you might see Emerson come back right a little bit. Morning Consult is probably going to be the one hanging out there all by themselves, way out to the left. Now, I also know it looks fishy with us being the only red circle there, but here's the thing. There are other high-quality pollsters who agree with us. They just don't poll as frequently as us because where does the money go in the polling industry? To perennially left-leaning polls. Yeah, Atlas Intel had the race at Trump +3. New York Times Siena just a month ago had Trump +1. I think you're going to see more people come over to the R side of the fence. But even so, again, look at where this race has been for literally almost 2 months now, it's been at roughly Harris +2. So anybody who tells you this week, all of a sudden the polls look really bad for Harris, no, they don't. They've looked bad for her this entire time because Harris +2 is just not good enough. At this point in 2016, Clinton was up 5.8 and Biden was up freaking 10 points. So yeah, the issue is that polling is only one leg of the tripod. You got polling, then you have the betting markets and prediction stuff, and then you have all this stuff that you could look at about registration advantages and get out the vote efforts and early turnout stuff. I can show you who to follow for that kind of stuff. But this loser narrative I saw coming for a long time because according to the polling, she's losing. This says Trump is only winning Pennsylvania by 0.3 points. And we had the Pennsylvania race tied. If you got rid of Bloomberg, who again, I think is a big left outlier, this really looks more favorable to Trump. But the point is, there is always left polling bias in the states when Donald Trump is on the ticket. Biden was up 7.1 points and won by a little over 1. So that's like a 6-point left polling miss. And it's almost a 10-point polling miss in the 2016 race. So if there is any left polling bias in Pennsylvania, and it's been like this for a month, this page has looked like Trump is winning for a month. But it was only one leg of the tripod. It's really easy if you're CNN or MSNBC to pretend that this isn't reality. All of a sudden, though, reality is catching up to everybody. Because here is a representation of the other leg of the tripod. This is the betting market. And for the longest time, too, this has been deadlocked in a really tight race for like literally a month in a way that didn't reflect the polling at all. Now, there are multiple betting markets. I just like the look of this one. I like these guys best. And it's a really deep market. I think $1.6 billion has changed hands just in this one bet alone. But what happened is, not long after the vice presidential debate, Pennsylvania, which was locked in a tie as well, and I guess you could say that this was interpreting the polls maybe, which also showed that Pennsylvania was tied, but not incorporating the expected left-wing polling bias, or maybe somebody with really deep pockets was holding the race at a certain number. If somebody was so inclined, they could probably actually find all of the trade activity that was doing that. Maybe there's an API. I don't know. But after the vice presidential debate, this immediately blew up. The market broke. Whoever was holding the market with a slight Harris lead could no longer do it. And now Trump is winning by almost 13 points in Pennsylvania betting markets. That's a really solid lead. I really don't see it reversing too much unless something really major happens. This is probably real market activity. And then on Monday, in a very incredible way, this race, which was also deadlocked, literally just blew out to like a 10-point Trump lead in an hour. Absolutely incredible. It backed off a little bit. And just now in the last hour, look at this movement. All of a sudden, a lot of volume hit. Just within the last hour, Trump was up almost 14 points in likelihood of winning the next election. So again, I haven't been following this stuff too closely, but Ready Politics is a good account to go and see this kind of stuff. Apparently, a lot of the news out of the swing states has been really good. Democrats have obviously a mail-in ballot advantage. They always do. But what it comes down to is how much the shift is. And it looks like it's moving in the GOP, the Republican Party's favor from 2020. So that's bad because Republicans turn out on election day and Democrats need to build up a buffer. But here's the kind of thing I've been seeing all over the place, and you guys should get to Twitter too and drink it in. Just 4 days ago, at a Cenk, I think Trump is going to retake the lead. Kamala Harris started playing prevent, defense, whatever, with too small a lead by having her surrogates tell everybody how pro-business she. Okay, well, I don't care about his reasons. The point is, 4 days ago, Trump was going to retake the lead. No, Trump is winning. He has been winning. The polling hasn't changed. Now, today, he says, just 4 days later, Trump has definitely taken the lead. When asked how she would be different than Biden, Harris said she would do the same things. Terrible. But, like, yeah, show me what's changed. The polling hasn't changed. The betting market's already changed. This is people coming to grips with the fact that Donald Trump has the upper hand and never has in the last decade in the polling. Now, here's somebody you should definitely follow. Mark Halperin has been putting some really solid stuff out there. He knows a lot of people in DC. I don't know too much about him, but I know that he is taking a very cold, dispassionate, unbiased look at this on his show. There's a branch of the Democrat Party that I would say can't handle the truth. I've made it clear Harris can still win, but where the polls are now don't necessarily represent where things will end up, says Mark Halperin. But the snapshot of where we are now is that there are a lot of really worried Democrats, and there are really no worried Republicans, including in Mar-a-Lago. They're very confident about where things stand now. They've also been talking about all of the internal polling leaks. The internal polling, from what I've heard, matches what my polling looks like. And so the key issue here is that, again, this time out, the public polling is all propaganda. Now, a lot of people have been fighting on Twitter about that point. And here's Nate Silver trying to cope. Internal polls typically have a bias of about 3 points towards their candidate. Oh, so that's what it is? No, folks. People expect the truth when you pay your internal pollster. You want to know what the real number is. And they don't have that, I'm a pollster attached to a major left-leaning corporate media outlet effect. So these numbers are about what you'd expect from the campaign, given the public data. And now here he's saying, I guess they leaked these numbers to show that Harris really is the underdog because it's better for her to campaign that way. No, folks. She's the vibe candidate. She's the consume product candidate. They need fear of missing out. They need Barbenheimer to get people to the polls. And it looks like it's all fizzling out. And how is she going to fix the situation she put herself in with the inability to have effective, authentic media appearances? Like, that's it. The next month is like campaign stops and media appearances. And she hit a ceiling not even close to where Trump's numbers are. And again, I think Trump's supporters are really sticky. So I just don't see how they turn this around. Now here's Mark Halperin throwing mud at Nate Silver. I love it. I'd love to see a robust debate in which someone actually makes the case that averaging cheap public polls plus a model is more accurate than the data of the best-in-class pollsters doing well-funded and serious work for campaigns, committees, or really rich people. Pollsters, for instance, working for Democrat Senate candidates are not spinning or lying when they tell some journalists what's happening with the presidential race. I mean, this is a really great take. We strongly agree, Mark. A good, high-quality pollster doing best-in-class work. Now, admittedly, we are not well-funded, but somehow, time and time again, we're putting out more results than anybody except Morning Compost. So again, folks, remember, you heard it here first. Months ago, Kamala Harris is a better candidate than Biden. True. We always expected the race to tighten up. In fact, we actually called really this 2-point bogey. I think it was way back right at the switcheroo. Donald Trump has earned his supporters. I really don't see how the Democrats are going to recapture them unless, again, an act of God happens between now and election day. And so I guess the next thing to watch is just how bad do wheels fall off? How bad is that slow motion train wreck? Because it may have some implications about how much Trump wins by and what kind of Senate and House he's dealing with. So if you learned something, please like the video, subscribe on YouTube, or you can go over to Rumble as well. Follow me on Twitter at Mark_R_Mitchell or our main account, Rasmussen_Poll. And stand by for 6 new states coming next week. And I think they're going to be really important because we're going into North Carolina and we're going to plant a stake in the ground so people know what to expect. Since this time around, it looks like their election infrastructure may be a little shaky. Follow us so you don't miss it. And thanks for watching.